What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time here on this Saturday. What is this? Early afternoon, late morning, depending on where you reside. I'm Britt Devine here with TJ and my new friend Taylor. Taylor, welcome. First time I've been doing a show with you. Watched a few shows that you've been doing for basketball. Welcome, my friend, to the weekend show.
Thank you much. Glad to be here. Should be a good one with, I think, 11 games on DK and less than that, 7 maybe on FanDuel. So
yeah, I was talking to TJ. This seems like it should have been a 4 o'clock slate. I don't know why DraftKings gave us the early games, but they did, and we usually appreciate the extra games. But I think today would have been the time to do the 4 o'clock games. TJ, what's going on with you?
Yeah, I definitely would have been. I mean, I'm always a fan of more games on the slates, but I definitely would have been okay limiting it down because not only was it there on expert survey today, but I also had a prize picks article to write. And so if I could have got a few extra hours of sleep, I probably would have appreciated that.
Yeah, well, the work never ends when you do daily fantasy baseball. It's every day for what, six months straight, it seems like, for baseball. There's too many baseball games. But anyway, let's get into this. I want to start first with the weather. There's some wind. There's a couple spots that are questionable. The main wind right now is in this Boston game. And TJ, I was talking to you pre-show. Boston seems to have given up on their offense outside of the top 4 or 5 in their lineup today. They're waving the white flag, giving some guys some days off. How are you handling that with the wind blowing out to right center? I've got Weather Edge pulled up here as well. If you wanted to get the screen share off of 19 games, a 43% increase in home runs compared to the normal game, according to Ross Weather Edge. Real quick, what are you doing with the weather today?
Yeah, so I'm definitely factoring it in. I have a lot of Angels and I have a lot of Red Sox as well, despite the lineup looking pretty gross with no Tyler O'Neill and no Rafael Devers, by far their top 2 hitters. But having said that, I still do have a lot of Boston. But because there's no O'Neill and Devers, even though that wind is there, it's still only 54 degrees. Yeah, it's plus 43 based on other games at this time of year, right? And so with that 54-degree temperature. And so with that being the case, I kind of think that I want to get a little Griffin Canning in there as well, just because it's a watered-down lineup. He hasn't looked good this year, but I'm going to plop him into the pool just because we got that watered-down lineup. But I am getting a lot of Boston, and I'm getting a lot of LA as well.
Taylor, what are you doing with the weather today?
yeah, I'm not really factoring it in too much. I do think the wind there is helpful. But yeah, it's nice to see no real issues on this slate, maybe on the evening slate, but I think Oakland could have, a chance of something, but I'm still playing Gore in that game and I'm still playing the bats. So I don't think the weather's really a huge factor for me today.
Yeah. Couple more weeks. Hopefully we won't have to deal with weather too much on the baseball slate. So, all right, let's jump into it. I guess, Taylor, I'll start with you for cash games. We're going to do DraftKings. We'll talk some FanDuel too. What are you doing on DraftKings? This is the main slate here. They're giving us all these pitchers. And I think there's probably, 4 guys I would play in cash on DraftKings. I'm spending up a little bit. I like the Ryan Sale combo. I think Ryan against this Detroit lineup looks really good today. I like Minnesota to win that game too. If you're looking for a bet, I think I wrote that up on Scores and Odds. You got Sale against Miami, and then you've got a couple of salary savers in Gore and Logan Webb. I tend to play Logan Webb a little bit more when he's at home, not on the road. How are you handling pitching?
Yeah, there are a bunch of ways to go. So it is a pretty good slate, especially in tournaments. Like there are a bunch of guys. I think Manaya, Crochet in particular are going to look good. For cash, paying up for Sale is probably the way to go. Miami on the road, not a good lineup. Not much power in that lineup. He's been good. His strikeout rate's like over 31% so far. Tiny sample, but it is what it is. He has a long track record of that, so I tend to trust it. Joe Ryan, like you said, against Detroit, that offense is a little less strikeout heavy than they have been in recent years, but Ryan's good. Pretty nice park there too in Detroit to pitch in, so I think he's a fine spend. If I'm paying for one of them in cash, I'm leaning Ryan, but certainly no qualms with Sale. I do think you can go down to Webb just because he's so cheap at 8.3 against Tampa Bay. He's a ground ball pitcher, not huge strikeout upside, particularly in that matchup, but the Rays are a pretty high ground ball lineup. So their weakness kind of plays into his strength. So I don't mind looking down to him for a salary saver. And then I mentioned Gore, just, at Oakland. Great lineup to pitch against. He's a pretty good strikeout pitcher himself, kind of around 26 to 27%. So there's a lot to like, and I think there are a lot of ways to go. I think Ryan's the one that you definitely want, and then your SP2 is kind of flexible, I think.
Yeah, I like the double premium personally today. On FanDuel, what are you doing over there? Because you get Webb's really cheap over there compared to Sale. Is Webb worth the price savings to you over on FanDuel?
I think he is at 8-1. Like I said, the matchup's pretty good for him. Good park there too in the Dome down there in Tampa. So I don't think it's a bad idea to go all the way down to him. Sale, obviously, if you want to feel safer, quote unquote, is fine for 9-7. But on this slate, I think the bats are kind of worth paying for. So I'm inclined to go down to Webb over there.
Yeah, Webb on FanDuel lets you get maybe Acuna, Trout, another big bat in there too. Can't really get all those guys in on DraftKings pretty much no matter what you do. So I do like Webb a little bit more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings, at least for cash. TJ, tournaments, those top 4 guys, who's looking like your most owned? Who are you owning the least? And then who else is in the pool today?
Yeah, so as it stands right now, Chris Sale is going to be my guy. Can't deny that strikeout upside. And then I'll admit I have a little bit of bias kicked in because I've tried to sneakily stack Miami a few times this year, and every time it's failed drastically. And so I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Let's go with the other side of it today. And so Chris Sale is going to be my guy. I'm going to have him in close to 50% of my lineups, going to be doubling the field. The one I'll be most underweight on will be Joe Ryan. I am running a new set of lineups right now to get myself a little bit more Logan Webb because I didn't like the amount of Logan Webb I had in my last one. I only got 10%. I want to make sure I get more than that. And so I'm cutting down on my Mackenzie Gore a little bit, bumping up the Logan Webb. And so Sale is my tier 1, and my tier 2 will be Gore, Crochet, and Webb. That's kind of how I'm going about it on DraftKings today. After that, I do want to mix and match some other guys in here. Like, it's not a super strong pitching slate, but there's a lot of guys who I do think have really good tournament upside. Low downside, low floors, but high ceilings as well. And so I'm mixing in some Ryan Pepios. I'm mixing in Griffin Canning because the lineup is so watered down for Boston. I'm mixing in some Sean Manaea because even though the matchup's tough and the wind's blowing out, he's been lights out this year. And so I do want to mix in a few of these other guys. I'm even taking a couple shots on Joe Boyle. It doesn't feel good, but he's like one of the cheapest guys on the slate. He's shown some strikeout upside if he can keep the walks down. And so I got a little bit of him too.
All right. Circling back to you, Taylor, anything else you want to talk about maybe on the lower tier of pitching?
Yeah, cash, I don't think you really have to go below Webb. I do think someone like DL Hall is okay in a tournament if you want to like pay up for all the bats, but he hasn't been good. It's not a very easy spot for him either against Baltimore on the road. So probably not an ideal situation to pay down for him. I do agree with what TJ said though, like Pepio, Manaea, even Lodolo, if you want to pay all the way up. I don't think he's the worst tournament play just because that White Sox lineup is so horrific. And he's pretty good himself, even though it is his first start of the year. But I think there's still a path for him to potentially be decent enough. But I think that kind of wraps it up for pitching for me.
All right. TJ, they're looking for Spidey bombs. What do we need for likes? Have we reached the threshold for number 1 yet?
First Spidey bomb coming at 50 likes. We have not reached the threshold yet, so keep smashing that like button. As soon as we get up over 50, we got our very first Spidey bomb.
All right, let's talk some offense. Don't give away the Spidey bombs yet. TJ, I'll throw it to you for more of a tournament perspective. We talked about the wind in Boston, Angels and Red Sox. Maybe we're targeting them a little bit. Outside of that, where are you landing?
So yeah, I am targeting the Angels and Red Sox today. They are currently my, I believe, 3rd and 4th highest owned stacks. Apologies, this last set of lineups is just finishing up. Here we go. They've actually gone down a little bit. So they are my 5th and 6th highest owned stacks today. But I have Texas number 1. I have Houston number 2. And then Atlanta, the Mets, Boston, the Angels, Baltimore, Kansas City, and the Phillies. those 7 teams are all between 7 and 10% of my lineups today. So I am mixing and matching them, but I do really like all of those stacks. My tier 1 is Texas and Houston, and then my tier 2, it's pretty big, but it's Atlanta, the Mets, the Red Sox, the Angels, the Royals, the Orioles, and the Phillies. And then I only have 3 other teams that I'm stacking on the slate, and it's Toronto, Washington, and Minnesota.
Yeah, real quick, Taylor, for cash, most of my offense is coming from Boston or the Angels right now. You can mix and match a couple other guys, mainly from that Texas Houston game. That's generally where I'm targeting right now. Are you seeing anything else as far as team offense that we'd be interested in from cash?
Not really. I do think Washington on DK is worth noting. I have a lot of them today in tournament. Joe Boyle, he had a boom or bust, strikeouts and walks. Washington is not a good lineup. It's not a good park, but they're pretty cheap, and they do have stolen base upside. Certainly, if Boyle's walking guys, there's a path for these guys to do some damage. But for cash, it's a lot of Angels, a lot of Red Sox, some Rangers, like you said. Maybe an Astro here and there, but yeah, it's kind of concentrated on the hitting side.
Right.
Because Boyle is such a heavy walk guy, I'd kind of want to be full stacking instead of mini stacking. But I do find myself with just a lot of CJ Abrams, Joey Gallo mini stacks.
Yeah,
they're very cheap on DraftKings for sure on the early slate.
Just got a Houston lineup, no Alex Bregman. We got Jeremy Pena batting 5th, which I like, and Yainer Diaz is batting 4th.
How much is Pena on DraftKings today?
I think 3,900 or 3,600.
Yeah, it's not a bad price if you're getting it in there.
He originally was my on the expert survey, your sneaky home run play today. It originally was Pena before I swapped it, actually.
Catcher, Taylor, cash, at least on DraftKings on the early slate. You probably don't want a catcher on FanDuel this morning, on the afternoon. I'd like to play Rutschman or probably not Sale Perez or Diaz, but I don't know. I'm kind of going a little bit cheaper for cash. Langoliers. We've got Hoppe from the Angels. Those are probably the 2 guys I'm mainly targeting for cash games today.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think O'Hoppe is probably the one for 3.9 on DK. He's kind of a decent hitting catcher to begin with. Fenway, obviously good for righty power. He's reasonably priced. I don't mind Langoliers, Yainer Diaz, like you said. That's kind of it. Maybe Luke Maley if you want to go down to him, but against Crochet, it's not my favorite thing for cash. So I think O'Hoppe and Langoliers, you can probably just cycle between those 2 probably.
Yeah, catcher is pretty weak today, so I don't even mind if you needed extra salary, just going literally with the cheapest catcher or 2 on DraftKings, just in an attempt to get a Trout, better pitching, maybe sneak in Acuna. Acuna's really expensive, hard to get on DraftKings today, but catcher's a position you can completely punt. TJ, anything standing out for you? I know for stacks, it's mainly just throwing the catcher into a 5-man or a 3-man, something like that. Do you have any specific players you're looking at?
Yainer Diaz is definitely the top guy for me batting cleanup today against Andrew Heaney. Travis d'Arnaud is somebody I'm trying to get heavily overweight on because, like you said, I like the guys in a stack, and that's a good way to get cheap exposure to an Atlanta stack. Jonah Heim, another guy, he's been lights out lately. I like him a lot. And then Langoliers is the next guy on my list. And Sal Perez, I really like as well.
All right. First base. Taylor, what are we doing there? Because you can, the expensive guys, Olsen, right, 6,100 at first base, at least on DraftKings for the early slate. It doesn't seem like the best use of salary overall to me. I think you want some of the heavy hitters probably in the outfield. That's how I'm allocating it. I'm looking cheap. You've got a couple of cheap guys. You've got Bobby Dalbec. You can get in he's 3,100. You've got the Angels first baseman, Nolan. I can't pronounce his last name. I won't try, but he's 3,500. He's hitting second today. You've got Tristan Cassis at 4,600 if you wanted to get part of the win game in the mid tier. How are you approaching it?
Yeah, it's pretty gross how many Angels I'm getting to, but I think Shawnuel might be the one for cash just because he's cheap. Hitting second, like you said, against Cooper Criswell, who is not a very good pitcher, not really a major league caliber starter. I think Gallo, another national we talked about already, cheap power bat, cheap source of a home run there from the left side. I think Alex Kirilloff is interesting. A DK only play in that first game against Maeda. We generally like lefties against Maeda. He's like the only twin that's actually kind of hitting so far this season. So I think he's
Don't
a
forget
play.
Edouard Julien.
Yeah, the other twin there that is hitting too.
Would you rather Gallo or what's Vogelbach got in there hitting cleanup today? If you're going for ultra cheap, who would you prefer there?
I think I still prefer Gallo, but Vogelbach is totally fine. It's kind of the same play, honestly. Yeah.
I try to get
Rowdy
a little more. I like Dalbach. I like Dalbach or Shanwell, I believe you said. But Dalbach plays pretty good at third base, I think, on DraftKings, and he's the minimum 2K on FanDuel. So if you're watching this show for the 4:00 slate, probably want to get some Bobby Dalbach on your FanDuel cash team. TJ, tournaments, what's standing out to you? If everyone's going mid-tier and cheap on DraftKings, are you spending up?
Yes, I absolutely am. My highest owned first baseman today is Matt Olson, I believe. He is second behind Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso is number 1, Matt Olson number 2, Vlad Guerrero number 3, Tristan Casas number 4. So I'm definitely trying to stick at that top tier front. And then let's see how many likes we have, because my other favorite is Spidey Bomb number 1. We're at 49. Give me one more like. I know we're getting there. We'll get our second Spidey Bomb at 75 likes. But Spidey Bomb number 1, Ryan Mountcastle, another play I really like today at the first baseman position today, who I wrote up as my sneaky home run play in the expert survey.
What are the odds on him today? The home run odds haven't been great this year. I'm still not finding anything I really like on a daily basis. What do you got for Mountcastle?
So in my site here in Saskatchewan, I'm going to be honest, I got stupidly great odds on him, and I can't imagine they're this good anywhere else. But let's see. Ryan Mountcastle, yeah, still good. Not as good, but still good. Plus 675 some places. Plus 600 on DraftKings. I got him for plus 750 today.
Yeah, that's a great price. I would absolutely agree with that one. All right, let's go to second base. Taylor, cash, DraftKings. To me, this is a spend position, and it's really down to that Houston, Texas game for me. You've got Altuve, you've got Semien. Do you have a preference between those two? Are you on the same page as me, or are you doing something different?
No, I agree with that. I think I'm on the Semien side. I just like that offense more in general. The Houston lineup's a little watered down, like we said, with no Bregman and McCormick in there. So Texas overall looks better. I think Semien for 5-1 is fine. Altuve, if you want to do that, no qualms with that either. Jonathan India, another red you can throw in there against Crochet, platoon advantage. Decent power bat, decent enough. Brandon Drury is kind of the angel at this position. There's an angel for every position, it seems, sadly. And Luis Garcia, I think, is worth a shout, kind of as a value lefty national against Boyle in that lineup. And I guess Cavan Biggio is another one we can consider kind of cheap second base outfield on DK. I don't mind that either.
Yeah, I think I'm splitting. I think playing the price game between DraftKings and FanDuel on Semien and Altuve. I think that's definitely where I'm trying to spend at the second base position for cash today. For tournaments, TJ, what's standing out to you? I think there's quite a few different ways you can go, honestly, from the tournament perspective.
Yeah, so highest owned second baseman today for me is going to be Jose Altuve, spending up. I love him against Heaney. I love Houston today as a stack in general. Marcus Semien, Ozzie Albies, other expensive guys I'm getting to a lot of today. Cavan Biggio, probably my top cheapie. I really like Jordan Westberg today for the Orioles. And then Edouard Julien, of course, I always get a little bit of as well.
You mentioned the Orioles. That's another bet I wrote up on Scores and Odds, like them to win this game, bounce back from yesterday. All right, let's go to third base. I mentioned on DraftKings, you've got Bobby Dalbec at 3,100 if you're not using him at first base. I think he's a fine spot. I prefer him over Anthony Rendon. Last I checked, Rendon didn't care about baseball. It's just a job. You can tell by the statistics that he definitely doesn't care about baseball this year. Dalbec's not great either. But if I'm going cheap, I think I'm going to take Dalbec over Rendon in the win game. What say you, Taylor?
Yeah, I don't really have a strong lean. Those are the two you're probably considering the most for cash. I think Josh Smith from Texas is also fine. 2,700 on DK, third base, shortstop. Platoon advantage against Ronel Blanco. Trey Lipscomb, another national. He's only 2,200. Has some stolen base upside. I don't think he's a bad punt either. If you have a little money to spend, I think Michael Garcia is kind of interesting against Minaya with the platoon advantage from the right side there. We haven't mentioned the Rockies yet, which is probably a good thing, but I think Ryan McMahon is one of the better tournament options at the position against, I think, Yariel Rodriguez making his debut for Toronto. So don't mind him.
McMahon's like
Rodriguez.
McMahon is like, he's having the season of season to start so far. He's leading the league in quite a few different statistics. So TJ, what are we doing? Third base, not great today. So this is why I like the cheapies for cash. You've got Riley, who's expensive, but it's basically, Rendon in a tournament, even in a win game, right? Doesn't sound like a great thing to do. I'd much rather roster Dalbec. I like Alec Boehm quite a bit. Him against the lefty seems like a pretty good splits advantage for him today. On an overall weak position, what's the ownership look like?
Exciting to me that for tournaments that neither of you actually mentioned, unless Taylor did and I missed it, my favorite third base play on the slate, and that's Josh Smith batting fifth for Texas today. Nice and cheap. I'm getting to a lot of Josh Smith, 25%, twice as much as any other third baseman today for me. That's because he also does have shortstop eligibility, so I'm getting him there too. But 25% still is a lot. Brett Beatty, Bobby Dalbec, my other favorite cheapies. Don't look now, Brett, but Anthony Rendon's actually been playing great the past few games. He had a 3-hit game the other day. He even stole a base. And so Anthony Rendon has been picking it up a little bit, but he still falls behind Dalbec, Beatty, Riley, Josh Smith, and Jordan Westberg for me.
All right, let's go to shortstop. You can throw Smith over there. You've got Neto too, 2,300. I think if I have the extra $400, we're probably going to go to Smith, get a higher batting spot, part of that Rangers offense. Taylor, do you have a preference there, or are you trying to spend up on somebody? You've got, Bobby Witt having the season of seasons, Seager, but to get to the 6,000 tier, you've got Mike Trout sitting at 6,000 in the outfield. I think I'm going to take Trout over spending up on this shortstop position.
Yeah, I think Neto and Smith are the two main ones. If you're paying up for pitching, you're kind of looking to save here for sure. I guess Neto is cheaper, so maybe that is the tiebreaker for him. I think Abrams is a strong play if you do have more money to spend here against Joe Boyle. O'Neal Cruz, not a bad, I guess, more of a tournament play. Obviously a power hitter at that position. It's not great. I do like Seager quite a bit if you want to pay all the way up. Ronel Blanco against lefties is not really a pitcher to fear. So there's not a ton to love, but I think the cash pool, again, is pretty short with Neto and Josh Smith primarily.
Yeah. TJ, what's the tournaments? I'm looking at the projected ownership here on Roto-Grinders. O'Neal Cruz leading the way, Bo Bichette, Francisco Lindor. I would probably put Abrams at the top of the list from that mid-tier. I like the Abrams call if you're sort of not spending all the way up, but he looks really good for his price. And then I like some of the cheapies personally. I don't see, Bo Bichette, you're a Toronto homer a little bit sometimes. Where does he land? Are you on Toronto today? They got a pretty high team total. I haven't heard you talk about them too much.
I do have some Toronto, but I'm not on them that heavily. I think I only have 5% Bichette today. This is basically like there are guys like Bichette and Orlando Arcia and Gunnar Henderson that I'm mixing into stacks today. Trey Turner, same thing. This is basically a 5-player position for me today. Josh Smith, Jeremy Pena if I need to go cheap, Corey Seager, Bobby Witt Jr. if I'm spending up, and then CJ Abrams in the mid-tier.
Yeah, I love all those plays today. Let's go to the outfield. All right, let's talk DraftKings first. Is Ronald Acuna making your cash game lineup today, Taylor? I just found him to be a little bit too expensive. You get a $700 discount to Mike Trout, who's having a better start this season. He's in the win game. I'm going to take Trout at the discount as my spend in the outfield today.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just the savings are the tiebreaker, I think, in favor of Trout there. Obviously, if you get to Acuna, that's great, and he's phenomenal, but not a must. Trout's probably the top guy. You can otherwise save a couple of Red Sox, Jarren Duran for 4.9 and Wilyer Abreu hitting second, only $3K. Not super fun sounding, but he's cheap enough, and that's probably the best offensive game on the slate. So definitely for cash, a strong play. Taylor Ward, Mickey Moniak, a couple more Angels, Jesse Winker, another cheap national lefty you can consider. Aaron Hicks, another cheap Angel. It's kind of the same story with outfield as it's been in every other position. I mentioned Kevin Biggio, you can play here. Evan Carter, a more affordable Ranger, definitely good for your stacks from the left side against Blanco. And Manuel Margot, perhaps. He's kind of affordable and has some speed / power upside. I don't think he's a terrible play either.
And TJ, we've got Trout, basically the same ownership as Jordan Alvarez. I think Trout's going to trounce Alvarez in overall ownership today with the wind and all of that. Where do you stand between those two from a tournament perspective? How much Acuna are you getting? You got any other cheapies? Where's it going for you?
Acuna, Trout, and Alvarez are definitely three of my top options today as the spend ups. I bet all three of them to hit home runs, but Trout is actually my highest owned guy today, followed by Evan Carter. I just love this Texas stack. Adolis Garcia, Jordan Alvarez, and Ronald Acuna Jr. come in next there, but I'm actually also getting a lot of Brandon Nimmo today. He's just been on an absolute tear, and I like the Mets. And then for some cheapies, pardon me, Jared Kelenic, Wilyer Abreu, Nelson Velasquez, all guys I like as well.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, I am off now. All right. TJ, are we at 75 likes?
Let's see here. We are at 63, so we still need 12 more likes for Spidey Bomb number 2.
These people are not giving us enough likes. Let's get those guys. Before we get to some Q&A, I want to tell you guys about Roto Grinders Premium. There's never been a better time to sign up for it. You got NBA, PGA, NHL, MMA, MLB. You can get yourself a 6-month combo subscription at the exclusive price of $469. That's a saving of $250 instead of buying 6 months. And you can give combo a test run. A 3-day pass, $19.99. Get access to everything. You get the SimLabs, you get the Plate IQ, you get the lineup builder. Anything you want to do, you get the articles. Excellent, great products. Roto Grinders Premium. All right, let's get to some questions from the YouTube. If you're in the Discord, you can go to the live show channel in there. I'll be looking at some of those, the live stream chat. Let's see what we got here. Taking a look at these. See if we got any questions. Get them into the YouTube. People are trying to make Dalbec a thing. Guy is horrible. I mean, he fits price-wise today. He's got the wind advantage. Big power bat seems like a good spot for Bobby Dalbec to potentially have a good game, TJ. That I think those are all the factors. And Canning as well, right? Reverse splits. You want the righties against him generally.
Yeah, and it's really just about he's the type of guy that, he's going to suck 8 out of the 10 times you put him in the lineup. But the other few, he's going to hit a home run. And so he's not a contact guy. He's a power guy or a strikeout guy. So it's boom or bust, but you might get a boom.
There's a question. Will you grow any vegetables at your home this summer? Who is that directed at? I do tomato plants on the front porch in a pot. Well, the wife does. Anybody else growing vegetables?
Sadly not.
Just a random question in the YouTube. Gotta love YouTube. All right. Wig wants to know Ward and Trout or Carter Langford outfield for DraftKings cash. I think you have to have Trout on DraftKings cash personally today. So anything with him, I think Ward's fine. I'm going to take that one. Is anyone going to take the Rangers side?
Not for cash. Definitely not.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. We got a couple more. TJ, Sale and Crochet in DraftKings tournaments. I think that's fine. I would absolutely have no problem with that today for anybody.
None at all.
Nope. DraftKings tournament single entry favorite 5-stack from the single entry type tournaments. TJ, would you have one out there?
Texas.
Yeah, I like Texas and Houston, and I don't think their ownership's going to get too high today. I like those quite a bit. Let's see if we've got any more from earlier in the show. How about we just we got Spidey Bomb number 2. Have we gotten the likes up yet, TJ?
Let's see how many likes do we got. I'm just building a little single entry here, adjusting a few things. Still only 67. We need 8 more likes for Spidey Bomb number 2.
Come on, guys. I tailed TJ on the Ryan Mountcastle. I need to get on Spidey Bomb number 2 as well. Don't have those great Canadian odds that you have, but reasonably close to it. Let's circle back. If I don't see too many more questions here, TJ, let's circle back to cash pitchers. We've got a couple of minutes here. What are we doing from the pitching side?
Me? Cash?
Oh, yeah, or Taylor. Yeah, either one of you. Let's go Taylor.
Was that DK or FanDuel?
Yeah, let's do DraftKings.
I think paying up for Sale or Ryan is the way to go. You can obviously pair them, but it's not a must. You can go down to Mackenzie Gore and Webb. Crochet, probably more of a tournament guy, but I think that's kind of it. Gore, Webb, Ryan, and Sale is the pool you're probably looking at.
Yeah, I'm staring at Sale and Joe Ryan on my DraftKings cash team as we approach lineup block. Let's go back to YouTube. The best shortstop play on DraftKings. Let's get it from a tournament and a cash perspective. From cash, you're probably looking to that Houston-Texas game, either Semien or Altuve. I have Semien in there as well. I think Taylor did. Is that what we're looking at from a cash perspective, Taylor?
Yeah, I was leaning Semien, but both are awesome today.
Yeah, TJ, what's the tournament take on that one?
At the second base position tournaments, I'd be going Jose Altuve as my top option, but Semien is coming in at number 2 for me. Like Ozzy Albies a lot as well. And then we do got enough likes for Spidey Bomb number 2. The people want it. It's on my list. And so let's do it. Pete Alonso, you can get him for plus 310. Big Meat Pete, Polar Bear Pete. He's hitting a homer today.
Yeah, didn't he get one last night? I think he got one last night.
He gets one every night. That's why he's such a great pick.
that is Pete Alonso for sure, hitting the dingers. Blanco or Manea? Let's talk on Blanco here, right? So what dude's allowed 1 hit, I think, through 2 starts. The underlying numbers don't really look too great for him. That's what, if you go look at you'd think a guy who threw a no-hitter is giving up 1 hit wouldn't have. I think we're approaching a 10 total in that game, if not a 10.5. It's at least 9.5. None of us have a problem taking Houston or Texas bats today, correct? I mean, I'm all aboard Texas bats. A little more down on Blanco than the no-hitter would suggest.
Yeah, Texas is my top stack on the slate.
Yeah, and
the numbers look pretty fluky for him so far.
Yeah, I would agree. Altuve's not. Oh, Altuve isn't a shortstop on DraftKings, so I would say I totally missed that position. So shortstop DraftKings cash. I'm currently at the Josh Smith or Neto tier on DraftKings. I am saving. Would you agree with that, Taylor?
I do indeed.
All right, yeah, I think that's probably the way to go. If you are spending, I would probably just try to get all the way up to a Seager or the mid-tier of CJ Abrams. Those are probably the 4, but I do prefer basically the punt-ish type shortstop today on DraftKings for the early slate. Let's see. We've hit that one. Brewers and O's game stack on DraftKings. So I would much rather take the Orioles side of that game. I've got them as a money line bet today. I think Dean Kremer is a much better pitcher than what DL Hall has shown so far as a starter this year. Baltimore struggled a little bit against lefties so far this year, but that's going to turn around eventually. Do we like that as a game stack, TJ?
Yeah, I don't mind it as a game stack. I actually did have a bet that I liked that was outside of home runs too, which is unusual for me, and I just want to check to make sure the team is still has some good value. But last I checked, Detroit was favored over Minnesota, and I like getting Minnesota in that one.
Yeah, I have Minnesota in game 1. That was one of the first things I wrote up this morning. Just Joe, the Minnesota offense has literally, I think, been the worst in the league so far. But Kenta Maeda, what did I write up on Scores and Odds? The ghost of Kenta Maeda is on the mound today, and Maeda got hit around by the White Sox and the A's. I don't know. Maybe the Twins lineup might be able to get to Kenta Maeda today. So I like the Twins quite a bit as well.
Let's get us up to 100 likes. We got over 200 people watching. It should be nice and easy. All we need is half of you to do it. 25 more likes. Get us get us there, and we got one more Spidey Bomb for the people. I'll even make it sneaky for you.
I'm trying to see the starting lineups page. Did the Brewers lineup, is that
Dunn, Contreras, Frelick, Adames, Bowers,
so-
Hoskins, Terang, Churio, Perkins. Why don't they bat Hoskins higher up?
I don't know. They've just been keeping on. What did you say it was? Yelich didn't make the lineup today, right?
No, Yelich is
No.
hurt now.
Yeah, he was out good. So that was sort of my thesis on taking Baltimore today, because Kremer can struggle against the lefties, but the other lefties Milwaukee have not really all too threatening. I think Baltimore bounces back from the loss last night. Let's see. You don't really see too many questions on the YouTube. In the live stream chat on Discord, I don't really see anything. TJ, why don't you run through your last second tournament lineups? What's the ownership look like, maybe on a team level for people?
So highest owned stack is the Texas Rangers at 18.67%, followed by Houston at 15.33. They're also the two teams I'm stacking up in my single entry today. From there, it's pretty spread out between a tier of the Angels, the Royals, the Phillies, the Orioles, the Mets, the Braves, and the Red Sox. All of those teams are between 11 and 6% of my stacks today. And then finally, I have Washington and Minnesota sprinkled in there as well.
Someone in YouTube want to know. So I'm on the Orioles. What's anyone, TJ, maybe you, Dean Kremer in a tournament? Is he in the player pool today? What do you think about him versus Milwaukee?
He is, in fact, in the player pool. I have 15% Dean Kremer today. He's kind of in the same range as like Griffin Canning, Sean Manaea, Joe Ryan, Spencer Turnbull, Ryan Pepio.
Yeah, I think he's a reasonable play. We've got him projected for 12% ownership. I think you said you had 15. He might even come in a little bit lower than that. Honestly, I don't think people are rushing to click him in. It's not an overall great pitching slate, but I think those top four of Sale, Gore, Webb, and Joe Ryan on DraftKings on this early slate, those guys are just going to eat up quite a bit of ownership overall today. So I think some of the lesser owned guys are going to come in a little bit below the current projections. Anything else popping into your head, TJ?
And that's it for questions. Doesn't look like we're going to get there in terms of Spidey Bum to number 3 and locks in a minute. I think it's time to get out of here.
All right, I got one more bet for the people. Just so you know, the Dodgers are back at home. TJ, have you been following on Scores and Odds? This is the bet for the rest of the year for everybody. If Dodgers at home and Mookie Betts is even money or better for total bases, then take the over. That's happening tonight. He's plus 105, 1.5 total bases. I don't know why they continue to allow this. He led the league in WOBA at home last year. He's leading the league in WOBA at home this year. Let's take some Mookie Betts if you're looking for a later night prop. Love that one. A little gem for some of you guys. I think I'm 5 of 6 for hitting on this so far this year.
I've been doing that with Acuna basically every game all season, and it's been going pretty well too.
He was plus money. Acuna was plus money last night. And now
I write him up every day on Prize Picks because they always have him available for 1.5 total bases. And so like he's just always in my Prize Picks article. But today I actually did bet Betts at plus 315 for 4+ bases.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Anything for on bets. But Acuna last night in what was a better matchup was plus money. And today I think I saw him at like minus 120 for 1.5 total bases. So I didn't get that one. And what I think is a tougher matchup for him, but he'll probably get there anyway because he's Ronald Acuna. All right, I think that's going to do it. Taylor, are you in the? Can you sports bet? You got any sports bets, or are you in a state where you can't do that?
Yeah, we don't have it in California. Thought we were supposed to be all progressive, but apparently we're not. So yeah, I'm in the dark on that one, sadly.
All right, so no sports bets. Hey, you can get around. There's ways to do it. All right. Let's see here for Taylor. It was fun doing a show with you, man. Like your analysis, TJ, as always. A very busy man with everything here on Roto Grinders. Everyone have a good night. I'm Britt. He's TJ. He's Taylor. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we got you.